Welcome, my name is Trent and this is Practice Makes Better Music, and in this video I'm going to continue something that I started talking about in my most recent lesson. And essentially what I'm trying to do here is to lay out a pathway for players who know some technical patterns. Maybe you've learned some scales, chords, arpeggios, all of these things, and maybe you don't have the tools that you need in order to really start creating music. So that's what we're focusing on in this series, and it's essentially the basics of improvisation. And what we're doing is just kind of building on some basic foundational concepts to really kind of step you along the way to where you can go from just knowing some basic scales and stuff to really making your own music and really being able to solo effectively. And so in the pursuit of that, we're talking about some important themes, and so we'll build on those themes today. You don't necessarily have to have watched the last video in order to get something out of this, but it might help just for some of the foundational ideas. I'll review some of the foundational concepts briefly. Last time I talked about the concept of rhythm and motion. Essentially, these are the foundational ideas of how music is created, no matter whether you're talking about playing single notes, like in a soloing perspective, or if you're talking about chordal playing. Rhythm plus motion really creates music and creates momentum. So it really helps to think about that when we're talking about how to improvise and how to apply concepts and technical things that we've learned. So in the last video, we also talked about motifs, and motifs are small musical ideas. Basically, little phrases that you can repeat and develop in order to say something, to create longer phrases and to come up with solos. And so in development of that concept today, we're gonna look at some motifs later in the lesson, and then we're also gonna listen to some solos that I picked out that I think are great representations of motific playing, so that you can kind of hear this in action. So I've got a handful of great solos that we're gonna listen to and just kind of analyze, talk about the motifs present there. The other ideas we talked about in the last video was development. That's a word that we use for altering an idea as you move forward in time. So you can develop an idea by altering the rhythm slightly. You can alter the direction of your idea. There's a lot of different ways that you can develop an idea. And then resolution was the final idea that we talked about last time, and that's just resolving, bringing your phrase to a point of resolution or an ending point that sounds stable and strong. Oftentimes the best way to start doing that is by landing on the root note of whatever key you're in, but there are other notes that are strong resolution points, usually notes that are in the chord that you're playing, such as the third or the fifth of the triad. Even a seventh on a seventh chord can have it has a little bit of tension, but it also does have a more resolved feeling than, say, like the fourth of the scale in relation to whatever key you're in. Anyway, so those are the concepts we talked about last time. Also, we briefly touched on just kind of playing and resting. So like adding space. You have your rhythms and your notes, and then you have your space, your rests. So we're going to jump in today with some more rhythmic practice and some rhythm exercises. Last time we looked at quarter notes and the different rhythms we can make with quarter notes, and we looked at eighth notes. Today we're going to combine quarter notes and eighth notes together, and then combine some rests in order to have some more rhythms to practice. And so that brings me to my kind of first point of today's lesson. And one thing I think is really important, whether or not you ever actually learn to read music, I think it's really important to be able to learn how to read rhythms, because that's going to help you a lot if you were to go on to want to actually read notes and stuff. The rhythms for me, were always the hardest part about reading music and being able to read them on the fly. So I've got some printouts. I mean, I'll put this stuff on the screen as we go along, but I've got some exercises for today, and essentially they're just a bunch of different rhythms that are all played on one simple scale fragment. I find that when you're trying to improve one aspect of your playing, in this case rhythm, it's important to narrow down the scope of the number of elements that you're working with. So today what we're going to be working with is just a fragment of the pentatonic scale. We're just going to stay in the same position that we were in last time. Last time we dealt with that C major scale. This time we're going to use this little fragment of the A minor pentatonic scale. Turn that down a little bit. So we've got a scale fragment here that we're going to be dealing with. And a scale fragment is just like it sounds, it's just a piece of a scale. And for, like I said, for developing certain concepts, it's really helpful to narrow down your scope. So instead of saying, oh, we're going to do this rhythm on 100 different positions, we're just going to do it in one position. We're not even going to do the whole, the whole scale. We're just going to take one octave plus one extra note on top, because that'll line up our rhythms really nicely. So, back to the point about reading rhythms. If you look at the rhythm, the first couple exercises that are on the screen, or if you want to download this, you can go to practicemakesbettermusic.com and view the whole PDF, or download it to print off, or whatever you want to do. But if we look at just that first rhythm, we've got quarter, eighth, eighth, quarter, eighth, eighth, and then repeated. So it's a 2-measure pattern, and it's alternating quarter with 2/8, quarter with 2/8. And so when you look at that, you want to be able to immediately see how that you should count it. So you should be counting it 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. Being able to do that is going to make it so that you can look at any of these rhythms on the exercises for today, and you can immediately know how it's supposed to sound. This next thing I'm going to say might seem kind of silly, but it's super important, and you might feel silly doing it, but clap out the rhythms. It's not stupid. It's actually extremely intelligent to do that, because then you start to get it into your body. It's the same thing as, it does kind of a similar thing to when we're counting it. When we're counting it, we get the feel in our voice of how it goes. Like, let's take the second one. So if I was just to count it out loud, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And if I clap it, it seems kind of silly, but here we go. So 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. If I just get that, whoops. By the time I go actually to play it, I've already got it internalized. It's easy for me to play it because I know how to count it, I know how to clap it, therefore I know how to play it. And so just one last note before we dive into some of these exercises. The idea behind learning all these rhythms is to get you playing different rhythmic patterns. And that is because the more you have under your fingers, the more ways you have to manipulate rhythm under your fingers, the more you're going to be able to come up with ideas on the fly as you're soloing. So just going through and trying different things rhythmically, you're going to find sounds that you like. You're going to expand your rhythmic capacity, and creating solos is all about rhythm and motion. It's all about direction with rhythm. So if you don't have rhythm, you don't have anything, because rhythm is a foundation of music. So that's why we're spending time on this, and that's going to be a big part of this series going forward. So today we're just going to look at the combinations of quarter and eighth notes, and then adding some eighth rests, and then some further exercises with eighth notes, quarter notes, and rests, eighth rests. So we've got a number of exercises to look at, and we're just going to jump in now. So we'll do all of these first, and then we're going to look at motifs and then listen through some of these solos that I mentioned. So here we go. I'm going to go into headphone land and start looking at these specific rhythms. Okay, so you can follow along with what's on the screen, or if you prefer, you can go download the PDF, practicemakesbettermusic.com. There'll be a link in the YouTube description if you're watching there. But I'm just going to pop on this metronome, and we're going to start with number 1. We're going to move through these kind of quick. But essentially, all that I did was just took 2 beats of quarter notes and 2 beats of eighth notes and put them in all the different configurations that we can do. So starting with number 1, it's going to be alternating eighth notes, or quarter note, then eighth notes, quarter note, eighth notes, and so on. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3. So that's exercise number 1, and I'm not going to stop in between all of them. I'm kind of going to move through them at one point after I've kind of talked about the basics. But in this one, you see how we're using this scale. We're just taking from A on the 4th string, and then we're playing 1 octave of that pentatonic scale up to the C on the 1st string. Then we're turning around. And every exercise today is going to be using that little fragment of the scale. The different rhythms are going to make it happen a little differently, especially when we get into parts 2 and 3 where there's a different number of notes. But part 1 is all notes, no rests. So we're going to go on to the second exercise here, which is quarter, eighth, 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 quarter. So it's 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So here we go with exercise 2. 2, ready, go. 1. Okay, so just a slight variation, but already if I take just those 2 different rhythms and I come up with a phrase, I don't do it so rigid, and I come up with a phrase kind of combining them, I could do something. So I was playing around with direction, changing the direction, altering the motif, but keeping very close to those rhythms. And those basic rhythms, you can start making them sound pretty cool when you add some inflection or articulation, some slides, some bends, or pull-offs, hammer-ons. Any of those kind of things start to add some attitude to these rhythms. So even a simple rhythm like we just covered can turn out to be something pretty cool. So next, I'm going to go on to number 3 and 4, and I'm going to do these together. I'm not going to stop to explain them in between, but just to kind of quick overview, number 3 is eighth, eighth, quarter, eighth, eighth, quarter, and then number 4 is eighth, eighth, quarter, quarter, eighth, eighth. So number 3 is 1 and 2, 3 and 4. And then number 4 is 1 and 2, 3, 4 and. So we'll try that here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 4. I'm just resolving to that A so we can stop. So these variations, they all sound a little bit different, but you'll start to find ones that you like and be able to play with those. So we're going to move on to numbers 5 and 6. I would say that when you're practicing this, it would be a great idea to go download the PDF and just practice through each of the parts that we'll go over today. This is part 1, but it'd be great to go through, turn on a metronome and practice through them all at one sitting, and that would be a great way to just do a rhythm workout and then spend a little time trying to improvise, not thinking about applying exactly these rhythms, but just let your hands kind of go there, because after you practice these, you'll kind of naturally start feeling some of these different rhythms and everything. So practice through the whole thing without stopping, and then go into some improvisation practice where you're focused on improvisation. You're not just noodling randomly, but focus on that. So, okay, we'll go into number 5 and number 6, which number 5 is quarter, quarter, and then 4/8 notes. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Number 6 is the opposite of that, so 1 and 2 and 3, 4. And then we'll talk about the last 4, which are a little bit different, and then we'll go through all those 4 together. So here we go, number 5 of part 1. 1, 2, ready, go. Resolving. Okay, so that's number 5 and 6. Number 7 through 10 of part 1 are using only one quarter note and then the rest 8th notes. So these are all different combinations of that, moving that quarter note around. So from beat 1 in exercise 7 to all the way to beat 4 in exercise 10, and that's going to round out part 1. So I'm going to play through those 4, and then I'll play through all 10 together, and then we'll move on to part 2. So starting at exercise 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Okay, so one thing I forgot to mention before I did those is that because there's an extra note here, we're adding one extra 8th note, whereas before we had 2 quarter notes and 2 beats of 8th notes, so 4 8th notes in each measure. From 7 to 10, we're doing 3 beats of 8th notes, which adds an extra note, 1 beat of quarter note. So maybe you noticed on the way back down, I was adding this note, the G on the 5th fret of the 4th string, so kind of adding that 1 extra note to the scale to make the rhythm fit. So we're going to do the entirety of part 1 now. So you can run through this with me. Again, PDF is available for download, or it's on the screen. So it'd be helpful to have your guitar in your hands and be playing this with me. So let's see if we can make it all the way through. Obviously, I didn't mention this, but there's repeat signs in all of them, so we're doing each of them twice, just like I did in the previous examples. So here we go, starting with number 1, going all the way through number 10. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's part 1. There we go. Hope that was doable for you. Spend some time on that. We got 2 more parts to get through, and this is all very similar stuff. It's all on the same scale, and I don't really want to harp too much on how important rhythm is, but the idea here is just hammer these rhythms out. Get used to making small variations in them, and then you will be able to be more creative in your playing, because you'll start playing and then you'll feel something and you'll want to change the way you're playing it, and you'll have the tools because you've run these rhythms. I think it's way more important to have an arsenal of rhythms at your disposal than it is to have the entire fretboard mapped out under your fingers. I think that obviously both are really helpful, and you should, if you want to be a really well-rounded great guitar player, you got to have both. But the technical aspect can be lacking, is totally lacking if you don't have the musicality, and the rhythm brings you the musicality. So rhythmic variation, motific development, these are the things that are going to bring you the musicality that makes even a simple scale pattern like the pentatonic shape 1, you can get a ton of mileage and bring a lot of life to that just by having rhythms available to you. Lots of different variations on rhythm. So we're going to move on to part 2. And so part 2, we're just going to be playing with the idea of adding a rest, so adding a little bit of space to these phrases. They're going to be very similar phrases to the ones that we just did, but we're going to be adding rests in different places so that we can vary the rhythm a little bit. So here we go. So I added eighth rests to these exercises. I'll pull up the first 2 on the screen here. You'll see on the first one we've got a rest on beat 4. We're not doing any rests on the and of the beats, like the and of 4, because that would feel essentially like playing a quarter note on beat 4, even though, if you could play an eighth note and then let off the note, like 2, 3, 4, and I could play a short, eighth note there, but it still kind of has the same rhythmic feel as just playing a quarter note. So we're playing only with putting the eighth rest and the first half of the beats where we're placing it. So exercise 1 in part 2 here, if we counted it out, would be and clapped the beats where we're going to play would be 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. So there's a rest on beat 4. So if I play that, it'd be 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. And here we're taking one note out of the patterns that we were playing at the beginning of part 1. So we end up just playing from A to A. Just one octave of that pentatonic scale. So, and then exercise number 2, placing the rest on beat number 2. So we have 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. So I'll try number 1 and 2 together. So with the metronome, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, rest. Rest and 1, 2, rest. Rest, 2, and 3. And adding a rest, it really kind of shifts the feel of these phrases. So this is a great way to just kind of change something. When you want to change something up, add a space or leave a space and then come in somewhere, as you're improvising, of course. So if I did... And when we have one little eighth rest like that, it gets us closer to, really musical ideas and phrases. So this is a great development, and that's why we're doing it, of course. So number 3 and 4, take a look at those. So in number 3, we're putting the rest on the beginning of beat 3. Number 4, putting the rest on the beginning of beat 2. But in both of those, we've got quarter, eighth, eighth, and then eighth, eighth, quarter, beats 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Just kind of moving that eighth rest around. So I'm just going to play those together, starting with number 3, 2, 3, 4, 1. Number 4. A lot of times with exercises like this, or exercises in general, when you play them slow, they can sound kind of mundane and dry. But once you get them to the kind of regular kind of playing speed, they tend to sound a lot more interesting. And the same is true with all of these. But don't push to get there too quickly. Take your time getting used to them at a slow tempo so you really get them under your fingers. And then once you try to speed them up gradually with a metronome, you'll start to hear how they sound a lot more musical. Let me just show you, though, just how it sounds different. If I play this, like number 4. At that tempo, it sounds like an exercise, but if I play... that starts to sound like a cool kind of motific idea to start a solo with or something like that. So, oops. So just have patience, take the time, do things slowly, but know that as you build these up, you get them under your fingers, you're going to be able to be creative with them and move forward. So we're going to look at 5 and 6. So number 5 is we've now got our eighth notes on beats 1 and 3, and then our rest on the beginning of beat 3 for number 5, and then the rest at the beginning of beat 1 for exercise 6. So I'm going to play these 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 3 and 4. 3, 4. 1 and 2. 1 and 2, 3, 1. Yeah, so I made a mistake there in number 5, but when you make a mistake when you're practicing, should you just stop and start over? No. That just solidifies bad habits. If you make a mistake, which I don't always do this, so some of the videos I make a mistake and then I start over. But the best thing to do is just to keep going, because if you're in a playing scenario, you make a mistake, you don't really have that option. Especially, I mean, obviously, if you're playing with other musicians, they're not going to stop and start back where you want them to. If you're in a performance situation or even just jamming, you just keep going. You make a mistake. I've flubbed notes. I don't want to say all the time, but it's not uncommon that I'll play a wrong note. I've had times where I come in on an entirely wrong chord, like literally a half step away. I've done this more times than I'd like to admit. But you know what? I don't make faces. I just slide to where I need to be, and I keep looking at people like nothing ever happened. And the musicians, they know, and they laugh at me. But most people, they'll be like, what was that? It's just something happened there. I'm not sure what it was. But if I don't make a face, if I don't do the, oh, I messed up face, then everything's fine. Anyway, so number 7 and 8, 9 and 10. Let's see, 7 and 8, we're going to be putting our eighth notes on beat 1 and beat 4. We'll just do 7 and 8 here, and then alternating the rests again, first on beat 4 and then on beat 1. So here we go, 2, 3, 4. 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4 and. Okay, that was number 7 and 8. Now we'll do 9 and 10. Just gonna jump into it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ten. Now we're going to go all the way through 1 through 10. I might have to make a mistake as I flip the page over to get to 9 and 10, but here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. That's it. Made it. I even didn't mess up too much on trying to flip the page over, so that was cool. That's part 2. I'm starting to think maybe having 3 parts was a little too much for this video. I'm going to kind of glide through part 3. I'm not going to explain too much about it. I think I will just play through it once, and then, if you want to slow it down, look at the PDF, take a look at each of the rhythms, spend some time with them, and then try to play it along with me. But I'm just going to play it through. And also, again, I'm going to try not to mess up when I turn the page. But after this, we're going to look at some motifs and look at some of these solos I was talking about, where we can really kind of pick out some cool motifs in order to give us a better idea of what the application of these kind of concepts actually looks like in practice. So, not practice, in actual real life playing scenarios. So, just a quick note about part 3 here. We're dealing with the same rhythm essentially that we did at the end of part 1. We had 1 quarter note per measure and then the rest eighth notes, but we're adding that 8th rest and we're moving that around from place to place. So follow along with me. I'm just going to play through the whole thing and then we'll move on. So this is part 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. There it is. There's part 3. And, these are still technical exercises in some sense. They're just rhythmic exercises. But the only way to get you past just kind of playing scales, when it's time to solo, it's like, okay, well, it's an A minor, so I can play this scale, is to get you playing rhythms that start to inspire you, start to catch your ear, and you start to catch little ideas like So I'm just playing. I could play in this one pattern all day long and not get bored. And that's because rhythm. That's because motific development. You could come up with 1,000 different ideas. There's unlimited ways you can do it. The more rhythms you know, the more you're going to be able to play around and have fun with developing ideas. So on that, I want to take just like the simplest idea and create a motif out of it, just so that we can revisit this idea of motific development. And of course, you can make motifs as complicated or as simple as you want to. I remember one show that I was at where there's this jazz saxophone player named Chris Potter, and he had a group called the Chris Potter Underground, and the guitar player for that group is named Adam Rogers. And the guy is like a New York jazz guitar player. Some of his jazz stuff is kind of not the most accessible to listen to. I even struggle to listen. I don't honestly love it, but in the Chris Potter Underground, the way he plays with a more kind of a rock blues kind of tone, but he's a very sensible jazz player. But my point of this story was that he played an entire solo that was 3 to 4 minutes long, using one motif and developing it further. And it was the coolest. It was one of the coolest guitar solos I've ever heard someone play, because I just couldn't believe how many ways he could reinvent this one idea. And the idea was not super complicated. I don't remember what it was. It was, at this point, probably 10 years ago. But that really stuck with me. And I was really impressed by his ability to develop a single idea. Most of the time, that's not what players are doing, especially for long solos. They'll move from idea to idea, and there's no particular right way to do it, but it was just showed a mastery to me in that solo of the discipline to say, no, I'm going to stick with this one idea, and I'm going to develop it. I'm going to play it inside out, backwards, forwards, all of these ways. But I could always hear the idea, and it always caught my ear, and so it had this through line that I thought was just brilliant. So anyway, so we're just going to take a very basic idea and just show a 4-part phrase, and this will be pretty brief, but we're going to use the same scale, but it's just going to be super simple, and so I just want to show like a 4-part phrase where we do motif, restate the motif in a different place, reverse the motif, and resolve the motif. So motif, restatement, reverse, resolve. So the motif is going to be this very, very simple idea. One and two and three, four. Very basic idea. It doesn't sound super musical, but if it was at a faster tempo, it would sound more musical. If I added some syncopation, something like that, it starts to sound much more musical. And so you can evolve these ideas, but just to keep it very simple, we're going to play it like that. So that's our motif. Next, we're going to move the motif. So that's our second. We do the motif. We advance the motif by moving it. So we got. Then I'm going to reverse the motif by starting here. I didn't do an exact reversal, but it is kind of changing the direction from a downward moving idea to an upward moving idea. So we got. And So now we've developed it by playing our original idea, moving the original idea, reversing it, reversing the direction of the original idea, and now we're going to resolve the original idea using the same rhythm that we've been playing, but just playing a lick that resolves back to the A. So the last idea will be... So here's a full phrase. And this is a very simple phrase. It's like speaking slowly and clearly so that people can understand you, so your mind can grasp the concept. But if I were to play this in a more, like if I was going to play this in an actual solo, something like this, maybe I'll play it like a little swung, a little faster, just so it sounds like something you might hear in a solo. So I added some syncopation, sped it up, swung the eighth notes, which is, in case you don't know, is just where you have the first eighth note be held a little longer, and then you kind of swing in that second eighth note. We'll talk about that in future lessons in this series, but that, you can see how a simple little motif, it lasted, 4 seconds, something like that. It's not a very long motif. If I was to continue soloing, I could continue improvising on a similar idea and keep developing it. So let's see what happens when I do that. So 3, 4. So I was kind of stretching the motif, changing it, playing different ideas, but also kind of trying to keep that same basic idea kind of inspiring me, moving through that whole little improvisation. But I mean, that's how it works with solos, especially when you're improvising, so playing off the cuff. It's just like, ooh, what does this sound like? What happens if I do this? What happens if I, try a syncopation or something? So, syncopation is something we're going to get into in the next part of this series, but for today, I think we've covered plenty of material for you to practice. We've got parts 1, 2, and 3 of the practice exercises, and then looking at just a basic motif. And my hope is that you can start to build your own motifs, and this will kind of give you a little something to hold on to and to try in different positions, and to start building your own improvisations and coming up with creative ideas that inspire you. That's the whole idea here. One note before we listen to some solos is all of the rhythms that we did today, we did them all on A minor pentatonic. We adjusted the scale very slightly for different ones. Some we went further than others, but this all works with like a major scale as well. You can do a major scale in any position, just like one octave of major scale. One way that I think is nice to do it is like, say, if you take like I'm on an E major scale, just one octave, starting on the 5th string, 7th fret, playing 5th string, 7th fret, 9th fret, then 6th fret on the 4th string, 7th fret, 9th fret, all on the 4th string, and then 6th fret, 8th fret, 9th fret on the 3rd string. If you take a scale like that, just one octave, and then you apply some of these rhythms, like if I went back to exercise 1 of part 1 and applied it to this scale here, I could go 1. I could start the first measure on the 1 down here, and then I could go jump up and start the second measure from the octave. So I can play all of these exercises. On a major scale just by doing it that way. So that's just the last thing I wanted to point out. So now I just want to listen to a couple of solos with you just because this will be fun and we can kind of put down the practice hat and just kind of do some listening together. This is going to get me flagged for copyright violation, but that's okay because I don't make any money on this anyway. So I picked out some solos that I thought were really great examples of motific playing. So I've got some different genres here. The first one I want to show you is a Chris Stapleton song. If you don't know Chris Stapleton, he's a country artist, but I feel like a lot of modern country music has kind of lost its way, and Chris Stapleton has found the thread of what made old school country amazing, and he's just an incredible musician. I actually got to open for him with an artist named Brittany Spencer last week, and I got to watch him play in a small venue, and that was just incredible. One of the best shows I've ever seen by far. Chris is not only like the best singer ever, he is also an incredible guitar player, and he's not crazy technical. He's very simple guitar parts, but I just think he sounds so good, and he keeps things simple and musical, and so that's why I want to show you this song called "The White Horse." Hold on, it's going to start. Let's see. Oh, here we go. I got to get to the right spot. I want you to hear a little bit of this chorus. Okay, here comes the guitar solo, the first one. Here it comes. So there it is. That is super short, simple, but it's so good. It has it's kind of using the motif from the melody of the song, but changing it slightly, and then using the same motif, altering the rhythm slightly, so it's a perfect example of a very simple development. Then he repeats, and then repeats the second half of it, but changes the ending. And so this is, to my ears, it's just a beautiful little melodic, motific guitar solo. He comes back to this at the end of the song. He plays another solo that's almost exactly the same, but with a slight variation. So I'm going to go to that. Let's see. Here it comes. So listen for the way it's same and different. So. Okay, so that you could hear in that one, he played essentially almost the exact same solo, except for played a little bit of a development of that first idea the second time he did it. So that's just, I thought that was just perfect kind of entry level, easy, great guitar solo. Just demonstrates the concept we're talking about really nicely. Okay, the next one was a song that I just found like 2 days ago, and it's a nice song. It's a country song by a guy named Larry Fleet. I hadn't heard of him before. It just came up on my kind of new music playlist, but I thought the guitar solo was really cool, and it's really cool because they take the motif of the guitar part at the beginning and they develop that. And not all the songs I picked are country guitar, but this one is kind of that country rock again, like the Chris Stapleton one, so I'm going to play that. So you can hear that guitar line. Okay, so that's the basic guitar part. Now listen to the guitar solo. Let's see, where are we at? 203. I'll roll a little before, but now keep that from the intro. Now listen to what they did in the guitar solo.
Staring at the drive, the tail lights and tires spinning. A lot of women ain't strong enough to stay, but baby you ain't. A lot of women. Sometimes I like.
Okay, blast off into the bridge, but I just thought it was cool how he took, for the solo, he took the riff that's on the intro and the outro of the song. They also played it at the end, and he just developed it. He took that and then went off with it a little bit. They came back to it, and then riffed out to the end of it. And that's a perfect example of just a little motif that is present in the intro of the song. He takes that idea. Of course, that's a great place to start the guitar solo. It's already in your head. All of these ideas are just kind of developments of what we would call like theme and variation. You have your theme, and then you have your variation on that theme. So there's another example of that. Okay, this next one is an old favorite of mine when I was in high school. This was a big one for me. I grew up, when I was learning guitar, I learned how to play by listening to bands like this band, the formidable Weezer. And Weezer has great guitar parts. It's just like, I still come back to this sometimes. So like, dang, these guys had something that was very poppy and great, awesome music. I still actually like it. One of the few bands I still like from when I was, 13. But this guitar solo for Say It Ain't So is a perfect example of motific development in a fun kind of rock type of a clothing. So here we go. Let's see. I'm going to fast forward, sorry. 3:15. Here we go. After this. Listen for the motifs that he plays on. It's great. It's so good. Here it comes. That's a killer guitar solo. I don't have any of my sauce on, but you can hear that. The motif is this. Very simple. Ba, ba, doo, doo. And then he does a little. And if you notice, this is the same idea as. It's the same motif again. Then he does it again. And then he develops it. So you have your motific development there. And then he goes into a new motif. And you can hear there's kind of a call and response between two different guitars happening there. The second guitar goes. And then the first guitar goes. So there's, a second motif and then a resolution to the one, just like we've been talking. So that second half is, this is a perfect example of this 4-part motific phrasing. So we got that's parts 1 and 2, part 3, part 3 and 4, and then the next 4-part phrase. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4. So I thought this was just like a perfect example of motific development. So anyway, I got 2 more for you, and then we'll wrap up. I know this is getting long, but this is kind of the fun part. Next, I just wanted to show you. Let's see, where is it? So Earth, Wind, and Fire. Great band, if you're not familiar. This is a song called Way of the World, and this is, we're just going to listen to this one, just kind of leave it there because it's got some great motifs, but he's not keeping like exactly true 100%, but you can see how he's coming back to themes, and it's just a great, tasty guitar solo. So here we go. Get to the right spot, 232. So this is more of an R&B kind of thing. Okay, here it is. This is solo. So, I think that's an E flat. No, D flat. A lot of his solo there is kind of centered around just the root note, just holding that out and doing some kind of slide up to it. And so there's motifs he's playing with there. Very bluesy, just a really nice solo. Simple, be a great one for you to transcribe. If you are looking for something, any of these would be great to transcribe. Any and all of them. This next one, unless you're have some pretty good technical facility, I don't think you should try to transcribe yet. But this is a classic. This might be like, I don't know. To me, it might be the best guitar solo of all time. I'm sure not that many people are going to hear me say that, and there'll probably be, if anybody does, they'll probably be like arguing, about it. But I don't know. I don't think that. I don't know. I can't think of a better one. So this is Highway Star by Deep Purple, the classic. Just like this is the ultimate motific solo. He just. I believe it's like 4-part phrases. Development, just like exactly everything we're talking about. This is like the perfect solo to me. So here we go. Let's see, where are we at? 345. It's gonna, hold on, let me get there. All right, here we go. Motif 1. Repeat. Motif 2. It doesn't get a lot better than that. For me, my taste, that's just a classic. You know, I grew up on classic rock, but you can just like so clearly hear the motifs. He's moving through the kind of like the climax of the solo for me is like when he's going ran do 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 ran do. He's following the chord changes. He's playing chord tones. It's got everything. The motifs develop, they have resolution, they have everything. So that is one of my favorite solos of all time. Maybe just on a straight guitar solo level, it's just like that might be my favorite. So anyway, that's Ritchie Blackmore, Deep Purple, Highway Star. And that is all I wanted to show you today. This is a long lesson, and if you're still with me, that's cool. I'm happy to have you, and I hope that you're getting something out of this. This series will continue. I'm just going to keep going until I feel like someone could start at the beginning of the series and move through the entire thing and come out on the other side really being able to improvise. So I don't know. That might be 10 parts. That might be 50 parts. I don't know. But I'm going to keep going on this, and in the next video, we're going to look at syncopation. So we're going to keep hammering on these rhythmic ideas because that's, I probably said 100 times, that is the foundation of music, and if you really nail down your rhythms, you're going to be a good improviser. So until next time, practice hard and enjoy the journey, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Okay, bye.